Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us timely. Thank you for joining the Managing All Project Needs in One System with Edison365 Projects webinar. We are just waiting one more moment while people start to pile in. I know it's lunchtime for a lot of people, so they're probably grabbing their lunch. Let's see, we already have a lot of people here. Let's see. Thank you, Erica, for joining. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Chris. We met you at BEI last year, so thank you for joining. Let's see. Sherry, thank you. And we have more people coming in. All right. Tad Haas, our Executive Vice President for Edison365, will be kicking off in just one moment with the rest of the webinar.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning all. Aman, thank you for kicking our Managing All of Your Project Needs in One System webinar this morning. Appreciate you getting us started with that today. Just one or two quick logistics as we get started from a housekeeping perspective. This session is being recorded today, so we will have that available for you within a few hours or certainly by tomorrow to give you a link of the recording should you have to step away or want to share with others on your team. We will have you in mute today for the session, but you can go through and ask questions. On your screen, you'll have a little panel up here. If you click on that orange arrow, it will open up the questions panel for you, and you should be able to begin the typing process directly in there. So please feel free to submit your questions. We'll either ask them as we're going through, but for sure we'll save time at the end of the session today for that. So without any furthers, let's go ahead and get started. Our plan today is to go through a very quick introduction and logistics, focus on some of the things that are happening in an interesting way today around project and portfolio management, talking about the solution specifically in terms of how Edison365 projects will help, but spend most of our time in the demo and the Q&A. So as those sessions come up, we'll be able to really focus on those throughout the morning. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Some of you are familiar with Edison365 and know that we are a provider of end-to-end innovation and portfolio management solutions built on Microsoft technology, specifically Office 365, that we're a global company servicing customers in all kinds of industries around the world. Myself, Tad Haas, I'm Executive Director here in Seattle for Edison365. Love technology and have been a passionate evangelist for these kind of things for the last 20 plus years, specifically working with project managers, PMOs, and senior leaders in this space. So it's great for, happy to be here today and looking forward to our time. Just doing a quick scan to see if there's any questions that are coming in up front, but I think we're good. And it sounds like people are able to get connected. So let's go ahead and dive in. So project management today. Most of you, all of you on the call today have some role in the project management game, either as a PMO director, a key project manager, or stakeholder in key transformations that your company is trying to involve in. What's interesting though, as you know, certainly project management is very, very important to a business's performance and their overall success. This is pretty well known, and there's lots of reports from PMI, in this case, PricewaterhouseCoopers, that talks about how important for that is. But it's shocking to think that only 23% of the organizations, yours included, use standard practices across the entire organization. That's not to say that your teams aren't excellent project managers. It just means that when people look at the entire enterprise, There's very few organizations that have a standardized methodology across the whole company. Now, there's some perfectly good reasons for that, because in some of the world you might be doing traditional waterfall method projects, others you're doing agile planning, and still others quite often today are in a hybrid world. So it's important that from a software point of view, you're able to address each of those kinds of capabilities. 44% of project managers, shockingly, still don't use project management software. I know for me personally, when I talk to enterprises, they often use Excel as a task manager, as a way to go through and look at lists or creating the kind of reports people care about, but still aren't leveraging the benefits of full project and portfolio management software. And yet the benefits for doing so are quite clear. Specifically in IT project management and in the portfolio management, CIO Magazine found that you can waste 28 times less money on your strategic initiatives through better project management practices. That's pretty significant. So when you're trying to put together your ROI for why project and portfolio management is important, these are some things to consider. But of course, there are common pitfalls for project management software. We've already talked about the lack of alignment across the organization and the processes. Today, companies are using sometimes way too sophisticated software that's too hard, or they're using simple project management software that does nothing more than task list management. There has to be a better way and something in between. Now, as a result, we believe edison365 projects is the right way to go with that. Because people are not using tools across the organization, there's a lack of transparency, both within an individual project, within a program, or across the portfolio. And when folks are using very sophisticated tools, they often spend too much time having to go through training and getting people educated on how to use the software itself. And we're driven off of the Office 365 platform, so we're going to spend a lot of time talking about collaboration and taking advantage of using the tools that exist in your day-to-day world already. So if we dive down and talk a little bit more about Edison 365 specifically, we've already mentioned the fact that we're built on the Office 365 platform. What's important about that, though, is when you start to dive into the software and start working with it directly, you're actually in the Office 365 world. I can launch Edison 365 projects from the launcher or from the waffle. I can get to the documents and things that we're working with in our day-to-day world, and that is completely within the Office 365 world. That helps quite a bit with the rapid adoption side of things, specifically because of the ease of use. And what we'll spend a fair amount of time talking today about is fully configurable, because this is one of the key differentiators around Edison 365 projects. Depending upon the type of work that you're managing, sometimes you're doing it for an individual project, a program, or often you need to be able to go through and integrate with other pieces of work. And whether that's other scheduling tools so you can get a Microsoft project plan in, or whether you need to manage financial data from other sources, it's good to have an open system that allows that data to be moved back and forth. Some of you know Edison 365 through our other solutions that help create this end-to-end strategy to execution and outcomes world through Edison 365 Ideas to support the intake of great innovations, and Edison 365 Business Case that will help you justify the spend on your next project and get it through the approval cycle much faster. Now, specifically, we're going to help facilitate better project management through a centralized approach that allows you as the customer or as the end user to configure the tool to meet your particular needs. That is mobile and engaging, so you can use it anywhere, anytime. Is set up for the casual user in a very low to no training world. PMO users, power users may spend more time learning about the functionality around admin and configuration, but certainly for the casual user, they don't. Pre-populated templates. This is super important because whether you're filling in forms for schedules, adding in the right cost elements, defining what your business benefits will be, or attaching the key document templates that help you drive consistency, this is one of the important deliverables through edison365 projects. And of course, one of my favorite capabilities within the tool is the My Work or the personal page. Everybody that logs in to edison365 will have their own personal page to know what they're doing, when, and how they can collaborate and engage with other folks. But enough of the overview, let's go ahead and dive directly back into the software itself. Aman, I'll pause for one quick second just to see if there's any critical questions or logistical challenges, but it looks like we're good. So we'll
We're
go ahead and
good.
keep, okay, great, thank you. So let's go ahead and dive into Edison 365 projects. Now, I'm working today inside of on a tablet PC, so it's very touch enabled, and we'll show some of those things throughout the day. But you'll also notice that we're logged into just a browser and that we're able to go through and say, who am I? I have a user profile. I'm able to log into the solution. You'll see lots of pictures of people as we go through using the tool today. And I can zoom in and zoom out as we use these things called cards that help us identify a project, identify work, and go through and interact with the solution that way. When our customers deploy Edison 365, they'll change the logos and the look and feel with their graphics so that it will have your logo and all of the things that you want to do to tailor it. That helps with adoption as you drop these things right inside of your normal working project management spaces as well. And when we go through and start to take a look at the pages here up front, we can start to see there's things that we want to promote, to talk about things that we're doing in our project team, the things we're doing to evaluate great projects. But we can also go through and look at some of the high level statistics in the things that help us see where we're at with our portfolio. We can, at a glance, understand the projects that are in flight or getting ready to be started. So we know at any time, how are we doing on the things that we want to go through and work on, the things that have been completed. You'll see progress bars here. In our organization, we happen to be progressing pretty well, so most of our stuff is green, but you'll of course see traffic lighting throughout as we go through and start to look at those particular projects. And whether I drill down into one here by simply clicking on it or clicking on the person, so I can learn more about Emer or learn more about how Paloma is managing this project. This really gives me a great way to work with my team members day to day. We use this capability called Discover, which lets you look at the portfolio rapidly to see what do you have in the mix. That is either a certain type of project based off your formats, things that are within certain categories that might be helping us around new product development or drilling down into things that are certain types of projects. This gives us the ability to really go through and turn these on or off as filters that help us go through and understand what we want to do within any of these particular pieces of work. Now, in a minute, we'll dive into one or two of these projects and start to look at how we track them. But before I do that, I just want to show you my personal page because this is also where many people choose to start. Because this has information about the things that I'm doing, the projects that we're working on, and or more specifically, the work that I'm being asked to do. And so this is my own personal Kanban. We'll come back later and status and update some of these things. Instead of filling out timesheets, we've got a faster, easier way to get that done. Now, I said we'd dive into a couple of these, so let's go ahead and do that now. Now, I know that Ivan has got this project called Checkout Free Stores, and we're trying to be a good retail company. and we want to facilitate rapid deployment or rapid shopping experiences for our customers. So what you're seeing now is an example of an Edison 365 project form or project type. And in this way, we have tabs that let us represent, what's the history of this? What are the documents that we're associating to it? What are the different project details or things that we care about? We have an executive summary, as you would expect, to go through and see what are our major objectives, the stakeholder care, the different things that we want to do there. We have, of course, schedules, which are very traditional. What do we have going on inside of our plan? What in our Kanban or in our list are we looking at? And again, we talked about pictures of people. Ivan hasn't done much of the work here yet, but we're certainly getting things started and want to work with the various items like our risks, like our issues, the different assumptions that we're making. And you have a chance to use very simple tabs and simple forms to go through and track and progress this work in these items, like change lists, which many people care to do as well. Of course, the details around the cost and the schedule and the other benefits help us understand how are we spending money within this particular project. Is it CapEx, OpEx? What are the type of things that we're spending against, the totals and the financial benefits that we want to track? Who's accountable for those benefits? Benefit realization is an important trend in project management today, and Edison 365 gives you a very elegant way of managing that. We also, of course, want to track is this project investment worthwhile? And we would choose to start to look at this both in the tables you might expect or through charts that will give us graphics to show when our payback may occur. Well, I can see that we're spending a lot of money this year, but hopefully next year we'll start to make some money. And if I want to drill down and look at those details, where does that occur? How rapid is that change? And are we willing to make the investment in the payback for this type of work? Please feel free to type your questions in. We'll be tracking on those as we go through the various items up front. As you might expect, when someone wants to go through and create a new project, you can simply come in and fill out the type of template that you want to do. Maybe this is a standard project that we've built a template around, and in that standard template, we want to pick things like dates. What are the priorities of these? What's our current status? Is this aligned with a particular program or initiative? At which point you can start to report and look at those things, fill out the descriptions, all the rest of the things that we've already shown, start to put in the data fields about those or drop in the schedules and so on. Again, the beautiful part about this is that we're using standardized templates, which I'll show you about in just a minute, how we go through and create those types of projects when we look at them as well. Now, a couple of things we didn't look at as we manage the whole portfolio would be the look and feel of how we engage with our projects. Whether we use these cards, which again let us understand stage, state, and everything else, we might be more of table kind of people. And so we prefer to engage with our data and drill in and drill through these things in a table way. Or you might want to look at your roadmap all up. What are the things that we're doing to manage all of this different type of work? If I want to go see what are the marketing projects that we're doing, it's a simple matter of clicking on those, and I've now filtered into what we're starting to do there. We'll spend a little more time later talking about some of the reports, but keep in mind, we're always able to go through and look at our portfolio, whether they're inside the views that I was just showing in Edison 365, whether I'm getting emailed updates and statuses and notifications, or whether I'm choosing to share information in a traditional reporting sort of way through Microsoft Power BI. This gives us the ability to drill in, drill down and drill through in a very engaging way on our reports as well. So let's take a look now and talk more about what it means to come in and build out your templates, because this is what you can do as a customer to go through and get started with these directly. But before I do that, one of the things I'd also like to show you is how we can go through and integrate with other products like Microsoft Project. And here is an example of a project plan where instead of building out the schedule in the edison365 tables and bar charts and things that we've shown, where you can drag and drop and create relationships and links, you might already be using Microsoft Project. And that's okay too, because at this point you want to call in some of your data directly from your project plan. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. I can still build schedules. I can still build my own task lists. I can still go through and drag and drop and edit these type of items here. So if I want to go through and extend an activity, if I want to go through and create a relationship from this task to this task, you can still go through and do all those kind of things directly inside of Edison 365. But if you're a Microsoft Project user, why not take advantage of what you're already doing in Microsoft Project? Let those schedules be fed from somewhere else, which is what we're showing here. Now I have a group of tasks that are being pulled directly inside of Microsoft Project. I'm not going through and editing these here because they're being managed directly in Project. If I had the rights, I could click on that and go open up Project to do it. But today we're really just going through and surfacing this data. So we have that level plan here. We have the rest of the project information, the executive summaries, the metadata that we choose to keep track of directly here as well. So those are some of the things that you can do around the schedule, around the tasks, and around the planning. But how do we go through and really make this our own? How do we go through and set up templates or administer this? Because that's one of the things that's quite easy to do inside of Edison 365. Now, this is great because you can go through and set up the type of things that you want to establish for news or information that you want to surface to your community, drag and drop them right to it, put in different types of themes that you want to do with things, talk about how you do threaded discussions or email notifications, integration with Teams. We don't have enough time to do that today, but this gives you an idea about some of the key things that you can actually go through and do. What I will show you, however, is this notion of fields, tables, forms, and types. Think of these as the building blocks of information that you might track inside of your company. Now, if you have a very simple project management requirement, this might be a very short list. If you have a complex set of things you need to manage and track, then you could keep track of all kinds of different data fields that you want to track that make sense inside of your enterprise. Yes, we can provide those templates and we provide these fields out of the box, but you can go through and say, well, in our company in Canada, we want to go through and track these by, you know, Canadian, oops, can't spell today, location. And this would be my way of going through and typing what province I want these things to be in. And I want these to be a pick list field so I can go through and start to put in my choices. Is this BC? Is this Newfoundland, et cetera? You're not here to watch me type, but I can go through and start to select and build these fields very quickly. So you as a PMO can do this. You can go through and set this up for your different types of user communities. So that's an example of how we establish the fields. The beautiful part about that then is we can take those fields and turn them into tables, which allow us to manage things like cost, financial benefit, all kinds of different things that you might choose to do, where again, we can create our own tables in a very simple way of doing this, where we might want to talk about GL cost type or other information there. We can put whatever we care to on these, recognize that these are periodic. They might be a task table. And so those will go in. Thanks, Aman. We'll come back to the questions in just a second. Um, this lets us go through then and put in what type of table it is, the financial benefits, things that we've already done, or I could copy them from somewhere else. And then it's a matter of picking those in and say, I want my cost types to be quarterly cost types. And now I'm building out those tables, can change all the details about them. And I'm building tables as well. So let's go back here real quick and we'll talk about, I see, can you share with external partners or is this only internal facing? You can actually share this data in multiple different ways, and whether you do it through external reports, through PowerPoint or fields or views, there are lots of different ways to do that. And both internally as you're working with your Office 365 users and others as well. We'll keep coming back to a little bit more about that. We'll finish on the forms and tables quickly because here we want to go through and say, now that we've put the different types of data elements that we want to track, how would we like to look at them? And I showed you before that we have these different ways of going through and looking at tabs and different types of views directly inside the tool. To set these up is quite simple. I might want to go through and have, I don't know, just a couple of different tabs in my world where I want to go through and say, let's go through and call this our exec summary. And we'll go through and call this our details and other. And so we can simply come in and fill out as much or as little of this as we would like. Now, once we've done that, then we can go through and choose to see what would we like to put in our executive summary. Well, maybe I want to go through and have a couple of different zones that will let me put in different types of data about this particular set of work. And in my details tab, I might want to go through and have the schedule. I might want to have the schedule. I might want to go through and put in some resource data, or I might want to go through and put cost data in there. So you can see I'm building these forms quite quickly. And to go through and say, well, what data do I actually want to see in there? Let's say I want to look at cost last. I want to look at my resource demand in the middle. And maybe I want to go through and look at my schedule or other types of things on my timeline, such as my project schedule up here. And now I'm starting to build out these views in a very interactive way. Currently in my details tab and in my exec summary tab, I can go through and say what I want to do there is who might be the the people that are managing these things. You know, what's the priority of this project? What program does it belong to? And we start to build these types of teams and these types of data around the things that we care about, so you can have your own customized forms. This is the true power of Edison 365. So you can make it as simple or complete as you would like to do in the way that you go through and set up and work with the product. Now, the last thing that we would show once we build these, I can go through and say, now I want to set up a different type of project. So each type of project might have different forms that you would go through and do. So if I go to my major project type, and I take a look at this, I can see that in my major project type, I am going through and tracking the name. I've put some graphics inside there. I've already embedded what are the instructions that come along with it? Who are the people that own these things by default? Do I want to make these internal or external? Do I want to use Yammer for collaboration and other things that we might care to choose to control as we work through what forms we use for the details, for the others, and set those up. And remember, the reason we do all of this work is so that when a new user comes into Edison 365 projects and they click on Create Project button, they get to go through and see, are they doing a simple project, a major project? If you're integrating with Microsoft Project Online, there's different controls that you can put in place to go through and manage each of these types. And again, that's all part of the power and the beauty of Edison 365 projects. So that when whether you're looking at things in cards, tables, or Gantt view, there's lots of different information that's available to you here to take a look at these. Now, I said we'd spend a little bit more time talking about the personal page because that personal page is one of the key things for helping the project managers show progress against work and getting things done. So I'll show you two examples here. In this example, we are actually showing the projects that I'm working on, the ones that I might be owning or playing around with. I could also see the projects that I'm the administrator on or that I'm part of the PMO team, and I can navigate to any one of those at all. I can also go through and navigate to any of the people. So if I wanted to learn more about Ivan because he's one of the people on that project, I'm now using standard functionality inside of Microsoft Office 365. I said we're very people focused, and this is a critical example of that, where we're tying directly into Office 365 and Delve and document sharing and all the rest of that. But I could work with those things here, and I could go through and see the work that I've been assigned to inside of these projects. Now, I might also want to go through and see how I'm assigned to other work and then start to progress how I'm doing against those. So in this case, if I come back to my work items, I can see that inside of that checkout free store, I've been assigned a major risk. Well, maybe I'm doing something to progress that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in as in progress. So this is your own personal Kanban around risks, issues, change logs, etc. I could also go through and look at the things that I'm being scheduled to do. And here's more work I'm doing in that checkout free store. And I'm probably done with this rework, so I'm going to go ahead and progress that work directly. Sure, I can go in and fill out a form and put that, starts and stops and stuff in there, but why not do it in a Kanban if you can? Do a quick check to see if there's other questions here.
We do have some questions.
Okay.
Uh, First question, and it came in earlier, and I apologize for missing that. Is there an app so you can view on your phone?
Today we surface all of this through the Office 365 and the SharePoint apps. So the answer is yes. You're able to go through and do that. We don't have a specific Edison 365 projects app on your phone. You can simply surface that through your normal Office 365 apps. That's a good question.
We also have another one.
Okay.
Does your software support single sign-on?
Yes, it does. And that's part of what we've talked about before here, where when I log into this, I am recognized as an Edison employee. I have my active groups and my rights. So when you manage security, you can go through and set those up that way. Let's get through a couple more things and then we'll come back to some additional questions. But often as your organizations today are rolling out Office 365, you're probably using Microsoft Teams. And what's one of the cool things about Edison 365 projects is it works just as well inside of Microsoft Teams as it does inside of any traditional browser. So now we can go through and collaborate on our projects, and I can go through and call out Aman because she's engaged with me on this project. And hey, check this out. We can do all the different things that we do to collaborate directly inside of Teams as well. And whether that's just traditional Edison 365 stuff, where we're looking at and managing these projects, looking at the Discover page, looking at my personal items, All of that can be done directly in here just as we are. I can turn my chats on or off. I can go through and work with all of my document stores and the other things that we do with our calendar integration and so on. So that's a key part about how we're leveraging Microsoft Office 365. Thanks for the engagement on that. I love the thumbs up there. And we could do some other emoji fun stuff as we'd like to record our meetings as we're project participants and really leveraging the power of Microsoft Teams for your project planning as well. But I think one of the things we also want to make sure to finish talking about is a little bit more about the reporting. Because today, reporting is very important. And whether I do this as a standard course of business through my PowerPoint reports, which I'm going to go ahead and launch this to become a PowerPoint output as well. This is one of the cool features of Office 365 a lot of people aren't familiar with. But when I'm in Power BI and I'm looking at my reports, I can drill in and I can engage with them very interactively. So I might just want to look at my digital transformation projects or any particular grouping that we care to and to interact with the projects specifically as we go through and filter on these as we work with them. And this gives us an overview of our portfolio. What are the things that we're doing to support this digital upgrade project? At any time, we can go through and filter on these. We can go through and engage. We can drop into the actual project data itself. And we can, of course, tailor and customize these as well. You can even go through and ask Power BI questions like, show me all schedules that are overdue, or show me all resource updates that are past due, and use a natural language query to go through and do it as well. But in a traditional project management sense, we want to be able to go through and look at the status of our projects, how we're spending hours against those things, looking at the red, green, and yellow flags to talk about them, to drill down into the cost areas that we care about, or to say, well, I want to dive in a little bit deeper on this. So as we're starting to spend money on our projects, what programs are we allocating these to? And if we say, well, gosh, the biggest chunk is our digital upgrade, of those, how are we doing? Most of our projects are green. That's cool. Paul's doing a great job on that. What about our red projects? I can see Joanna has a little bit of help that she might need on this. So we could drill into Joanna's projects and start to see what's the status of those projects. And I could say which ones, open them up, begin to drill down and drill through to see how folks are working with these. Of course, that's true on the resource demand side of things as we start to look at our allocations of people to any of these. And then, of course, our risks and issues. How do we go through then and start to see the impact of these risks? How do we go through and look at our exposure? How do we go through and look at the things that might be opened or closed? Make some quick pivots on these, look at our exposures, see the ones that we have that we should be acting on, and then begin to move forward. As I said, the other thing we wanted to do is let Microsoft do some more work for us. So it's actually going through and launching a set of these reports directly inside of PowerPoint. And I know as project managers, we often have to give our status updates through PowerPoint. So why not let it do all of the heavy lifting for you? Now, those are the key things that we wanted to go through and show there. And also wanted to know that we can check to see, other reports that you can create, whether you're using Power BI or other data sources like Tableau. You can create and work with your reports however you'd like to do that. But in essence, those were the things that we wanted to talk about and show today inside of Edison 365 projects. We've looked at quite a lot directly inside of Teams, integrating with Microsoft Project, and using our applications directly as they are out of the box as well. So I want to wrap up and make sure that we save a few minutes as well now, Aman, for questions. I know we were trying to finish by the quarter to the hour, so we have time now left for those questions as well. Were there other things that have popped in?
We do have another question. Do I need Microsoft Project to schedule tasks?
Absolutely not. We love Project, and you can do lots of great things with Microsoft Project, but there is no requirement to have Microsoft Project in order to use Edison 365 projects. It has its own scheduling capability for those tasks, for those relationships. So no, you do not need Microsoft Project, nor do you need Project Online, but we can work with both.
All right, and then we have another one. Does this integrate with other software outside of Microsoft?
Yes. We, of course, are built on top of the Microsoft platform. And as you've seen, we have a pretty robust data set that then you can map to through this open connection to other data solutions. And whether you use things like the Power Apps or Flow, Power, you can go through and connect that way. You can go through and connect with other data sources. Other people are connecting to their IT uh, agile tools, for example, if you're using Azure DevOps. So that would be another case where people are doing that, or with products like Jira. There are new connections coming out all of the time that you can either download from the Microsoft website or as our partners create those integrations as well. And of course, there's nothing to stop you from doing those integrations too.
All right, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the question section.
Well, definitely appreciate people taking the time to ask the questions. And Aman, thank you for walking through some of those as we were going through. Today was meant to be a brief demonstration of how Edison 365 projects can specifically help. My coordinates are here. You can also always connect with us at hello@edison365.com. And Elo and Aman and our team will be happy to get back to you on those. If you're curious about Edison 365 ideas and business case, please check out our website to learn more about those as well. Or if you'd like to get started with a trial of any of our software, that certainly can be one of the outcomes for you and perhaps a next step. So Aman, unless there's any other questions.
Just comments, and thank you for the information.
Perfect. We'll be following up with an additional email after the session today, including a recording. Thank you for your time and for your attention. Have a great evening, afternoon. Thank you.